reading and copy work have been the thing that works for all of the kids that I tried.
As I've homeschooled and as we've gotten into, we just finished our 12th year of homeschooling.
Congratulations.
And I've realized, I know, gosh, only by the grace of God, let me tell you. But I've realized that there's all this curriculum that gives you such specific ways of doing things. You've got spelling, you've got grammar, you've got vocabulary, you have all the things. Do you use a specific curriculum with your kids to teach them those things? Or how, because we talked about using those things in, in context, learning things in context. How have you changed, or have you changed the way that you teach your kids those things?
I have changed. I grew up as a very natural speller. And so when I started seeing that my kids were not natural spellers, now some of them are and some of them aren't, but in the beginning I started thinking, what's wrong? Why isn't this working? Because I was a natural speller, so spelling lists and spelling curriculum were great. It didn't matter. But I think even without those, I would have been fine. And so I've learned over the years that when we were using spelling curriculum, and we tried many, it seemed like we were drilling a lot, but all the lists didn't matter because we were not using the words in their context. And the same thing with vocabulary. We used to try different vocabulary lists and word curriculum, all kinds of things to help. You want your kids to have a lot of vocabulary. And it seemed like we did a lot of work and it didn't really change anything. It didn't make them better spellers or give them the ability to use more words. And so I realized that was a lot of struggle, a lot of expense, and the copy work was what really solidified it. And I have had kids do all sorts of different things because we've been homeschooling for 23 years. So my kids are very spread out, had a lot of time to change tactics and try new things. And this copy work, reading and copy work, have been the thing that works for all of the kids that I tried. And so there's something about using whole sentences with words that matter to the sentence and, fit the story. They just work.
Yeah. I love that. I know later in the week, we're going to talk about homeschooling multiple kids because you've done that a lot.
Yes.
But I love that you talk about that because that is a really good way to not have to have, 5 different spelling levels and 5 different vocabulary books and stuff. I remember when Brooklyn was little, she was probably 7. And we were living in California at the time, and we were kind of under an umbrella school, not a charter school, but an umbrella school that we had report cards and stuff and all that stuff. And so I felt like I needed to check all the boxes. And so one of the boxes literally was vocabulary, and I just X'd it out because I was like, well, we're not using a vocabulary curriculum. And the lady who ran that umbrella school, she was an older, wiser mom who had homeschooled for a long time. And she looked at me, she said, do you talk to her each day? I said, yes. She said, then you do vocabulary. And I said, oh, great. She said, vocabulary A. And I was like, oh, that's wonderful. Like it just took so much pressure off of me because this goes back to feeling like we need to do it the way that the traditional school does in the classroom, where we have to check all the boxes. And so when we don't check those boxes, we feel like we're somehow failing our kids in their academics. And so I love that you're 23 years into this. Yeah, it's scary.
It is. And that's one of the things I talk about most often is don't feel like you have to do what the public school does.
Yeah.
Every time you start to do something, ask yourself, why am I choosing to do it this way? Is it because that's what you only knew from public school? Or is it because you think this is right for your kids? And there's not just one right way to do it. So think outside that public school. That's just probably one of my most common messages.
Homeschool Insights is sponsored by CTC Math. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com and try it for free. For more great homeschool inspiration and resources, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.